Welcome to Honest Conversations, a Folktales mini-series exploring all things mental well-being as part of the 2021 Mental Health Awareness Week. This year's theme is nature, and at Boatfolk we're firm believers in the power of the water to help soothe the soul. Each day this week we'll be speaking to a member of the Boatfolk community who will share their first-hand experiences of grappling with their own mental health. We hope you enjoy listening.
Alex, thank you so much for taking the time to come in and talk to us today. I know that it's a busy time for you with the summer just kicking off and the sun coming back out. So for everyone listening at home, it's Bea from Portland here, and I'm with Alex Sergison, the owner and founder of Adventure for All, which is a business that operates out of the marina here. And we're talking today as part of the Mental Health Awareness Week's mini-series of podcasts. And one of the things I want to talk to Alex about today is the role of adventurous activity in managing our mental health and our stress levels, but also in giving back to the community, giving back to ourselves in some respects, and also an opportunity to give to others and to help others. So, Alex, welcome.
Thank you, Bea. It's a pleasure.
No worries at all. Right. So, first of all, Adventure for All, how did it all start? What was the inspiration behind it all? Tell us more about the business.
I've been in the outdoor industry my entire life. I actually grew up here on Portland, and I was super lucky. I went to Castle Cove Sailing Club. My school also offered sailing. So my background was really sailing, and then later windsurfing. I went off and I did a course at UKSA on the Isle of Wight. And then from there, I was offered a job at Sunsail out in the Med. And I still remember to this day going home to say to my parents that I wasn't going to university, but I was going to go to the Mediterranean and live like a legend on a yacht for a few months.
Amazing.
And I remember to this day my parents turning around and saying, "Yeah, we knew you weren't going to university. We just needed you to sort that out on your own head and make the decision for yourselves." So that's how it started, really. When I got back from, and I spent almost 10 years working abroad. And then when I finished, I did a few different jobs in the UK, mainly commercially based, windsurfing, sailing schools, a bit of yachting. And then I was picked up by Weymouth College. And from Weymouth College, I was recruited to do some work around building an outdoor education department for the college as part of the legacy for the 2012 Olympics, which was obviously really exciting stuff. Spent, again, almost 10 years doing that, which was lovely. And I really liked seeing the kids progress through, and I liked the college environment. But there was always just this need that I needed to be doing something a bit more for myself in my own way. And I sort of ended up struggling a little bit with the confines of working in the public sector, and it maybe not moving quite as fast or in the right direction as far as I was concerned. And yeah.
I was going to say, the benefit of having your own business is being able to push it and move it in whichever direction you...
Yeah. It's you're able to move at your own speed. If you want to do something in your own business, you do it. You don't have to ask anyone else. You're not accountable to anyone else, which is how I thrive, and I'm able to push myself a bit harder there. And actually, I have to say, the department we set up at the college, and more lately, my partner at Adventure for All, my fiancée and mother of my children, also worked with me developing this department at the college. It was quite successful, and we had about 40 members of staff in it. And it just got to the point where I was stuck inside every day. And it was literally an epiphany moment. I got quite down about it. I sort of felt quite stuck, quite trapped. And I woke up one morning and went, this isn't right. I could be doing anything. I could be working in the city. I could be doing any job, anywhere. All I'm doing is shuffling paper, writing risk assessments, managing other people. This isn't what I got into the outdoor industry for. So Adventure for All literally came from there. I woke up one morning and I walked into college and went, I'm not happy. I've got quite down about this. What can we do? And actually, as it happened, the college was very, very supportive. They allowed me to cut down my hours to 2.5 days a week, and then allowed me to build up my own business around my commitments to college over a few years, and then basically make myself redundant so I could step into to Adventure for All full time and not look back.
Amazing. And that was how many years ago now? 6 years ago, did you say?
So this will be my third summer of having nothing but Adventure for All. So yeah, I spent 3 years transitioning from college to Adventure for All. And as I said, what I did was basically make myself redundant at the college, and we backfilled my position there and allowed me to build my business up around it.
Brilliant. Well, would you say that when you were younger, did you give much thought to your mental health? Just moving on to that subject slightly, you openly admit there that you weren't happy with the role at Weymouth College, and it was that unhappiness that sparked the amazingness that is now Adventure for All. But would you say that when you were younger, it wasn't really something you gave much thought to at all? And that's something that's become more of a...
I would say I was probably a stereotypical chap. And literally until a few years ago, I would have been one of these guys when talking about mental health. And it's just a weakness. It's, it doesn't really exist. Depression, anxiety, it's not really there. You just need to tough up a bit and get on with it. And it's not actually until you have it and you suffer from it, it sort of gives you a bit of a slap around the face and you go, yeah, it's a bit more serious than all that. Actually, it is... actually something that's not just weakness, it can happen to any of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people, as you say, don't really kind of think too much about it until they're knee deep in it, and then suddenly it's something that you really need to address. So it's really good that you recognise that early on and managed to do something about it.
Not too early. I'm 42 now, so yeah, not too early. I wish I'd been a bit younger when I had recognised it.
True. But in terms of getting out, you've always been an outdoorsy person. The outdoors is well documented that being outside and getting outside is really good for your mental health. And we've just, previous to sitting down to record this, we were just talking about getting out on the water and how just 15 minutes on the boat, sitting on the water and a bit of chill time is way better than, or has been more effective than therapies and talking and various other ways of dealing with mental health issues. So in terms of getting out in adventure sports, how do you feel their role plays in managing people's mental health? And
I'm not even sure it's necessarily having to be an adventure sport. For me and my experience of it, it's more to do with focus and just giving you opportunities to push everything else aside. And I think there's certainly some of us who are more susceptible to maybe, you can look at it as a weakness or a strength. It's up to you. But pushing yourselves harder and having sort of quite high aspirations for ourselves and our family, and that becomes all-encompassing. And if you allow it to, it will just take over your life. And it's just in your head the whole time, and no one can deal with that. And so for me, taking part in sport, outdoor and adventurous activity sport is my passion, but I think any sport, anything outdoors, anything indoors, to be honest, just something that makes you focus on something other than work, can only be a positive thing. So yeah, for me, the sports that really work are ones where I'm out of my comfort zone, I'm having to push myself, I'm having to really focus on what I'm doing, and I'm learning, because that means my brain is completely focused on that. It's not focused on any of the other sort of junk that's going on in the background.
Yeah, I know when I'm halfway up a climb, especially if I'm leading, then my brain is very much focused on trying not to fall off, rather than what's going on at work. So yeah, it really does help take you out of the everyday situations, doesn't it? Just you're talking about taking it away from work and helping to focus your mind elsewhere. How does that work for you in terms of your work is your adventure sport or your chance to get away? Do you find that actually the two combine and overlap too much, and you have to take yourself away from doing activities for work? Or is it a case of they are very, very much separate and you're able to separate out between the bits that are work and the bits are this is time for me?
No, not at all. When I'm taking a group out, coasteering, for example, coasteering is a pretty full-on activity.
Yeah.
And so my brain is absolutely 100% on keeping those people safe, make sure they have the best possible experience and looking after myself out in the water. I think everyone's got trigger points. For me, it's not working outdoors, it's not the sort of the day-to-day stuff, it's just things in the background. My trigger at the college was the fact, and I know this looking back on it, it was the fact that I was stuck in this public sector role, which was sort of fundamentally guided by the government. There's only so much myself as an individual can do to change its path. Even if I can, I'll scream my head off. Look, this is wrong. You could do this better. You could make this more efficient. And when no one does anything about it, or you can't sort of force it from inside, that for me is very, very difficult. And it's the same thing. Struggled over the winter. We're lucky enough to have a rental property that we rent out. We've had some problems with that. We got stuck in a legal system over the winter. Same thing, it's public sector. It's a massive, massive set of cogs, and there's absolutely no way that I make that change. I can look at it and I can complain and go, this isn't fair, this isn't right, this is taking too long. but no one's going to do anything about it at the end of the day. And, it's very different if I'm off paddleboarding or if I'm off coasteering, because I'm absolutely responsible for myself and the people I've got out there, and that is absolutely it. No one has any authority over what I'm doing. It's my choice to say whether we run or we don't run that day because of the conditions, and it's up to me to make sure my clients have a really positive experience from it. And when I'm doing that, actually, there's no strain, there's no stress. Although the activities are run, plenty of people look at it and go, "Oh, that must be stressful." You're taking people jumping off cliffs and swimming through caves underwater, and that's the thing. But for me, it's not stressful. That's just second nature, and I find very much comfortable, and I'm very happy doing that. It's the stuff in the background that's what I struggle with.
Yeah, got you. And we didn't really touch on that earlier, but you were saying about going out and doing your own paddleboarding and that sort of stuff. You've done some fairly exciting adventures abroad in some pretty isolated places. How has that helped you to push your own boundaries in terms of finding what you're capable of and what you can do?
Again, it's not really things I've ever really thought about. We've done a couple of first descents of rivers in different spots, one in Guatemala where I worked off a map of Guatemala. We didn't know what was down the river. It was a massive river up on the border of Mexico. As you can imagine, some nasties along there. And we're not talking about crocodiles in the water either. And I didn't think twice, didn't even cross my mind that it was a problem. Just popped the paddleboard in at one end and popped out the other 4 days later at the other, and camped out in between on my own. And quite happy. Didn't stress, didn't worry. Because, once you become sort of acclimatized to being outside, it does just become second nature, and that's where you're most comfortable. And again, because you're out there, you're looking after yourself and you're more about navigating the river and what you're going to come up against. There's no time for any of those sort of menial things that can cause you stress in real life. Maybe I'm just trying to escape.
Everyone needs an escape, and that's partly what paddleboarding and that sort of thing gives to a lot of people. And there's been a bit of an explosion with paddleboarding in the UK, especially with the last year with the pandemic. People wanting to just get out and do something. Everyone's got to find their escape somewhere, and the sea is a pretty good place to do it, provided you are safe on the water. Yeah, so you mentioned earlier you've got a family now, 2 young children. How has that changed your perspective on managing risk, especially in your own life and your own activities?
It definitely has changed, but mainly when I've got my children around me. I think generally because of the nature of what I do is I take kids jumping off cliffs, and I take kids paddleboarding and kayaking and rock climbing. I sort of see risks and accidents happening way before they are going to happen or even become a problem. I generally I do struggle with that a little bit of sort of letting go of the reins a little bit and allowing my kids to have a few accidents and bumps and bruises, whatever. Because I know I could easily turn into one of those daddies who's hovering over them the whole time. My kids are generally covered in bumps and bruises, which I see as being a positive thing. For myself, I think you learn a bit of fear as you get older. 2 weeks before my little boy was born was the last time I got myself into serious trouble, and I came probably the closest I've ever come to drowning, and I went up to Morocco to get the biggest swell of the year that year, and surfed at quite a large point break in Morocco, and my leash broke, and I went under, got pinned down for a while, and had about an hour's swim to get back in. And 2 weeks later, I had my little boy, and I look back and going, "God, I know I was pretty close to not being here for that. Maybe I need to think a bit more carefully about what I'm doing for myself, because actually, I've got other people to look after now."
Focuses the mind a bit more. So let's move on to the side of the business, the things that you've been doing with children who have struggled following the pandemic and the lockdown to re-engage and to get back into school life and that sort of thing. So you've been taking these groups out now for pretty much almost a year, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, different groups on and off for a year. But it's not just now. I think it's been aggravated by COVID and the repetitive lockdowns and the disruption to school life. But these kids are out there the whole time. Unfortunately, more and more kids are suffering with mental health problems and anxiety and everything else, and teaching them sort of coping strategies through being outdoors only be a positive as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. Giving back to the community, and one of the topics, so we're talking about Mental Health Awareness Week, which is 10th to 16th of May. And one of the 5 themes around this year's Mental Health Awareness Week is give. So looking at what you do with these youth groups to try and build their confidence and their ability their resilience, I guess, isn't it? Their mental resilience?
Yeah, mental resilience, confidence. A lot of these kids have never been pushed or challenged or really been encouraged to show aspiration, I think, as much as anything. So they sort of struggle to find where they fit and what their role is. And it's just, for a lot of them, it's just, just showing them a bit of self-worth and showing that they can succeed. A lot of these kids, they struggle in the classroom. And I have to say, I was very lucky at the school I went to. I could easily have been one of those kids. I'm not naturally someone who's comfortable in an office or in a classroom environment. So I do feel empathy for them. That's the beauty of being human, really, is that we're all good at some things and not so good at others. And you just have to find what you are good at. And these kids, sometimes have just never really had the opportunity to see that, all right, I might not be good at maths and English, but God, I'm pretty good at climbing, or I'm really good at paddleboarding, or whatever else. And that there are things out there they can enjoy and they potentially could make a career out of.
Absolutely. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, as you said earlier. So being able to give back to that community, being able to give back to those kids and seeing them as almost yourself, as parts of yourself as a youngster as well. How does that feel for you as a business owner, but also the ability to be able to do that? How does that help your mental health in some respects?
It's just something I'm very comfortable doing. I said I was incredibly lucky with my parents, which is my mum, my stepdad, but also my school environment. And I would say that I was certainly one of those youngsters that if I didn't have that support network around me, I could have easily gone off in a different direction. But I was really lucky. Some of these youngsters out here, they're equally as lucky, but they've just taken a wrong turn or a wrong path, or something's happened just to push them in that wrong direction. And it's quite rewarding knowing that you can give them a nudge. And sometimes it is just a little nudge, and you can put them back on the right path again. And for sure, just because of the nature of what we do, we work in very small groups. Most of these school groups come to us, they're only bringing 5, 6, 7 people. So it means that rather than being in a classroom environment where you've got 30 or 40 people for a teacher and a teaching assistant, where you don't get much of that one-on time. For me, I actually get to know these kids and we build a relationship. There's no sir, it's Al or Alex or whatever they want to call me. And we get on, we work together.
So you're with them for over a period of time, so several months?
Yes, sure. Some of them for a day a week over several months, some for less time, some just for ad hoc sessions. And it all works. The best stuff is where you really, really build that relationship up with the young people over a few months, and you get to know each other and they build confidence in you, and actually you build confidence in them, which allows you to push them a bit harder and sort of take them out and do some slightly more extreme activities and things with them.
It must be pretty rewarding to see them grow as well, just sort of see from where they came from.
Yeah, I've got youngsters which I still keep in contact with from when I first started at Weymouth College, and I call them youngsters, but they're like some of them in their mid-20s, and they're definitely not youngsters anymore. But there's one young man who's doing really well. He's out working on super yachts in the Med, and I think he was in Fiji last time I heard from him, and all over the shop. And some of these guys that said they just needed a bit of a nudge, and as it turned out, they have found their way, and they've been super successful off the back of it, which is it's pretty rewarding when you do see them years later and go, oh, you turned out all right, didn't you?
Yeah, it must feel pretty good. Oh, amazing. Well, whenever we catch up outside the Marina office and stuff, there's always something to talk about, and it quite often comes back to this sort of mental health side of things, and you're just sort of checking in with each other, and I think for the sort of give theme, it's quite a difficult one in some respects, but actually do you know what? Sometimes when you're having a bad day, just wandering past someone and saying, how you doing? And just giving a smile or something like that really kind of makes your day. It makes you pulls you up a bit. And I guess that's one of the things that we want to promote during the week and on the day that this podcast goes out particularly, is just that idea that actually it doesn't take that much to give something to somebody else.
Well, I've talked to my brother at some length about this, and this whole thing, and we make sure that if we haven't heard from each other once a week, we will just send each other a text and go, are you all right? And I think it's breaking down that barrier of thinking you have to say, yeah, I am all right all the time, even to your own family, and understand that it's okay to go, no, you know what, I've had a pretty lousy week and this and that's happened, and God, they've annoyed me and whatever else, and sometimes just chit-chatting away and is the best thing. I said I had some problems over the winter, and the very best thing I did was to text my brother and go, I am not all right, I need some help. And as soon as I did that, before I even had a response from him, just like a weight was lifted off my shoulders, and I just opened up and gone, I need some help, and I knew that someone was going to be there for me, and that was the very, very best thing I could have done, as it turned out.
Yeah, there's such a stigma around talking about mental health. So actually, I think that stops a lot of people from even starting. And as soon as you start, you open the floodgates almost.
Yeah, I talk about mental health is still not something that comes very naturally to me. And as I said, until even just a few years ago, I would have been that guy who said, no, it doesn't exist. And I have to say, I still, if I'm honest, I find it a bit embarrassing. But from that give point of view, I said I've got a 2-year-old and I've got a 4-year-old, and I don't want them to grow up in a society where they are embarrassed. There's a very good chance that one of them at some point is going to struggle in some way, and I want them to be able to come to us and talk about it and go, you know what, actually, I know that Daddy struggled at some points, and I probably will again at some points. But I want them to be able to come to speak to us and also speak to their friends and speak openly about it. So yeah, no, this sort of thing is very, very uncomfortable for me. But I'm truly trying to force myself to be as open about it as possible, because I think actually once you start talking to people, they go, oh yeah, no, we know what you're talking about. And yeah, that anxiety, that feeling of vertigo and being really down and not being able to get out of bed in the morning. Yeah, no, we get that. And you go, I think there's more of us out there than you think.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. And the more we can talk about it, and in some respects, on the giving theme, actually part of that is actually giving your time and being available for people who have taken that really brave step of actually saying, you know what, I'm not doing all right at the moment. I could really do with a helping hand right now. And like you, I was really lucky growing up that I had a supportive family. And I think that give and support, sit side by side. I probably wouldn't be the person sitting here talking to you right now without the support from my folks when I was growing up in my late teens. I'm really, really grateful to them for the time they took and the support and just the understanding I think that they gave me. So I really hear you on that one. Awesome. Well, I won't put you to any more embarrassing questions, I promise.
Not embarrassing, just a bit awkward still. I'm not sure if I'll ever become completely comfortable with chatting about this sort of thing, but I hope I do, and I hope other people do too, because it shouldn't be embarrassing. I know
it's one of those things, I guess, that you could. It is partly stereotypical in terms of, you said earlier, you feel like your stereotypical bloke bloke, is that the right word? Man, chap. There we go. We'll go with chap. Who doesn't like to talk about how you're feeling and that sort of stuff. But I think there are probably equally as many women who bottle their feelings up rather than talking about it. It is, I think, has always been perceived to be the chaps who don't say anything, but the strong silent type. But yeah, I think that there's as many women as well, and I'm with you. I think it's something that's important and it needs to be talked about, because there's too many things that get swept under the carpet in society that are deemed as unacceptable to be spoken about, when actually it's really, really important that they are. So we'll leave it there. And,
thank you, Bing.
Thank you ever so much for coming in, and thank you for overcoming the awkwardness. And,
no worries. I'm quite an awkward chap, so I wouldn't worry about that.
Amazing. Thanks, Al.
No worries.
You escape back to the sessions you're running this afternoon. And
paddleboarding.
Paddleboarding, yeah. Get out on the water and enjoy the new boat as well.
Yeah, I will.
To everyone who's listening at home, or maybe on your boat, potentially, to our boat folk, I've got a bit of a challenge for you as part of today's mental health awareness theme of give. So if you're out and about, give someone a smile. Maybe if you can, stop for a chat, see how they're doing, but maybe give a little bit of your time and maybe a compliment. We can all spread a little bit of positivity. It's something free and simple. It doesn't take much to do. It's often really, really overlooked. And I've been told before that actually you give someone a great beaming grin, it really makes their day. There you go. That's all from me. That's all from Al. How do I stop this thing?